Evening and welcome to the Planning Board meeting for the town of East Fishkill, September 13th, 2022. Will everybody please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First, a few announcements. Upcoming meeting dates are October 11th, 2022 and November 10th, 2022. And as announced at our last meeting, we will have a joint public hearing with the town board on September 22nd, 2022. We have approval of minutes for the meetings of August 9th and August 22nd. I imagine that we've all had a chance to review the August 9th minutes. Can I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think the August 22nd minutes were just published, so I'll hold those over till the next meeting. Can we start with a roll call, starting with Craig?
Craig Arco here.
Lori G.
John Eichman?
Ed Miyoshi.
Richard Campbell.
Sarah Bledsoe.
Okay, thank you. We have 3 public hearings that are scheduled for tonight, and I'd like to make some announcements about those. The iPark Building A project was originally submitted as a site plan approval. They've actually decided to subdivide the property, and so as a result, we'll carry that public hearing over until the next meeting. So we will have a public hearing for them on our October 11th, 2022 meeting. It will include both the site plan and the subdivision. And so if anybody's here to speak for or against that, you can stay. We will accept comments, but you can certainly come back to the next meeting. The other 2 public hearings that are going to be held over include Summit Woods and Montage Subdivision. Both of those projects are going to be visiting with our town staff. And after those meetings are completed, we'll actually bring them back for a public hearing. So again, if you're here to speak on either one of those projects, you may feel free to stay. We will accept comments, but if you'd prefer, we will be resetting a public hearing for that. It will be advertised and announced, and you will see signs for it, and it will be for a date at this point that's uncertain. The other announcement for tonight is the Mary Lane subdivision. They've withdrawn that for this evening, and so that will come back at some future date, more than likely. So the first item on our agenda is Tucker Trail subdivision.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
So the project was before the board last month. One of the, in terms of a layout, it really hasn't changed at all relative to house placement, septic driveways, and things like that. But there was a concern brought up at the last meeting specific to providing an access way, if you recall, from, let's call it the roundabout or future roundabout to the trail. So, long and short, we had a meeting with the consultants, and after some kind of putting our thinking caps on and so forth, this plan reflects the discussions of that meeting, and I know it's tough to see there, but the two dark patches you see are actually wetlands, and there's a pond in the back, okay? That is fairly well encompassed by another hatched piece of property, which is around 7.5 acres, plus or minus. The idea was that rather than have people travel from the roundabout down to 16, which is a state road and pretty heavily traveled and so forth, was done to actually get people off the road quicker. So what this shows is there's a leg that comes down to the intersection, and it runs to the back and kind of real close to where the wetland and pond is. But what this does, it affords people getting off the main thoroughfare, and we kind of detailed, again, just for an idea of what could be done, a walking path that would actually go through that area and make its way to the rail trail. So that property is actually currently proposed to be dedicated to the town. So it would not be an easement or anything like that. That would be a dedication directly to the town. So I think that reflects some of the discussions that I had with Scott and Michelle. I know that you were looking for some input from the county. I don't know if you've heard back from them at all. Have we?
I can tell you that the county indicated that they would endorse a connection, but the property, they actually have maintenance responsibility for the trail, but the property is owned by MTA Metro North. So they would need to approve the connection, but the county would endorse it and help that process along.
Okay. Sounds like there's some logistics behind it, but what it does, it provides that safe travel, to the back location.
Got it.
Right.
It's a nice solution.
I like that.
It is. It's elegant. Are there any other changes since you were last before us at the last meeting, Michael?
Not particularly. There were some grading and things that we had done, do some cleanup and so forth. I've got Christian's letter dated September 12th. So I don't see anything overbearing here, but yeah.
Has the survey been cleaned up? Has that been resolved?
Yes.
Discrepancies, okay.
Yeah, although the new Lot 7, that it's called the no disturbance easement, I have some comments on that. And of course, if the town is going to accept Lot 7, which is that, that the new lot there, that's going to have to go to the town board and go through that process for approval. So it's going to be another.
Okay.
Yeah, I assume that would be the case.
Yep. The rest of the comments are mostly administrative.
Mike, it doesn't change the lot sizes where you need easements or anything like that.
Well, the lots to
I don't mean easements, I'm sorry. Anything from the zoning board, variances from the zoning board?
I don't believe so.
No, the lots at the bottom, they kind of extended out into what is, so we just cut them back, but still
Okay.
made them in accordance with the town code in terms of minimum lot size and so forth. So there also was a flag lot, which basically gobbled up most of this piece. We just kind of threw it to it. So that lot's smaller now, but again, it still works. Like, I ran the new flag lot calculations for it and so forth, so.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments by board members or our professionals? If not, we do have a negative declaration and a resolution. I'll read the negative declaration. Name of the action is Tucker Trail 7-lot subdivision. It's an unlisted action. The analysis of the issues identified included land use and zoning, visual character, historic and archaeological resources, plants and animals, transportation, and other. Under land use, zoning, and public policy, the proposed action would result in a subdivision of a 16.1 acre lot into 7 lots, including 6 total building lots, 1 existing and 5 new lots, and 1 open space lot. The open space lot is proposed to contain a trail connecting Route 216 with the Dutchess County Rail Trail. The proposed lots and residential use would be consistent with the existing R1 residential zoning and town's comprehensive plan. Therefore, the proposed project would not be expected to result in any significant adverse impacts to land use, zoning, or public policy. Visual character. The proposed project would result in the construction of 6 new homes and a trail connecting Route 216 with the Dutchess Rail Trail. New residential lots would be partially visible from Route 216 and portions of the Dutchess Rail Trail. The proposed lots would surround the existing and historic Redbird Farm, a 25-foot vegetated buffer strip between the Redbird Farm and the new lots would be maintained to reduce the potential for visual impacts to this historic property. With the implementation of the 25-foot vegetated buffer, the proposed new homes would not be expected to significantly alter existing views to and from the Dutchess County Rail Trail or the Redbird Farm. Therefore, the proposed project would not be expected to result in any significant changes to visual character, and no significant adverse visual impacts are expected. Under historic and archaeological resources, the proposed subdivision surrounds the historic Redbird Farm. The 25-foot vegetated buffer strip between the Redbird Farm and the new lots would be maintained. According to the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, with the vegetated buffer in place, no significant adverse impacts to historic or archaeological resources would be expected. Under wetlands, plants, and animals, the proposed project site contains USACE and town wetlands. No disturbance is proposed within 100 feet of the wetlands. All tree removal on site would occur between October 31st and March 31st to avoid impacts to Indiana bat. Therefore, the proposed project would not be expected to result in any significant adverse impacts to wetlands, plants, and other animals. Under transportation, the site would not be expected to generate any significant new traffic or significantly alter existing traffic patterns. Therefore, the proposed action would not have any significant adverse impacts to transportation. And under other, no other significant potential impacts were identified. So
John,
this,
I have a modification. It's a 20-foot vegetated buffer, not 25 feet.
okay, so we'll amend this to read 20-foot vegetated buffer instead of 20-foot vegetated buffer.
And do we have to
Instead of
add the
25?
condition for the connection?
Yes, but that will do at the
On the
resolution.
resolution.
Okay.
Yes.
And it is mentioned in here.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the connection. So could I have a motion to approve this negative declaration?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Resolution of final subdivision approval. Tucker Lots, 6-lot subdivision. Resolution offered by Planning Board member John Eichman. Whereas the applicant applied for a 7-foot subdivision of a 16.1-acre parcel, including 6 building lots and 1 open space lot. Whereas the 7.25-acre open space lot will contain a trail connection between Route 216 and the Dutchess County Rail Trail. Whereas a public hearing was opened and closed on August 22nd, 2022. And whereas a negative declaration was adopted by the Planning Board on September 13th, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby grants preliminary subdivision approval for the above project as represented on a map entitled Tucker Trails, prepared by M. Gillespie and Associates, Consulting Engineers, PLLC, dated September 20th, 2021, and last revised August 31st, 2022, subject to the following conditions. Approval from Dutchess County Board of Health. Applicant shall either deed the open space lot to the town or file a restriction with the Dutchess County Clerk's Office to ensure it remains as open space. Applicant shall place note on subdivision plan that the open space lot will remain open space in perpetuity and is not a buildable lot. A landscaping plan showing the existing trees and shrubs screening the new construction from the road will be retained. The vegetative buffer shall be at least 10 feet wide, consist of a mix of native trees and shrubs, and will be maintained for at least 10 years. The vegetation will be removed only in areas where there are proposed driveways.
So that condition was specific to Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation as part of their sign-off on the archaeological and historic, and I think it pertains more to the frontage of the property.
It does.
And then, if you recall, the homeowner had asked in the very beginning of this project that the vegetative buffer surrounding the property be maintained, and that is what we're speaking to when we talk about the 20-foot buffer. And then I want to just add an additional condition, which is approval of the connection to the rail trail by the Metro North Railroad.
Okay. So with that explanation and addition,
I'm sorry, just a question, Michelle. I don't see the 20-foot buffer referenced here in the resolution, though.
Okay, so it's on the site plan. It's actually on
Okay.
the site plan. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Michelle, the reference would probably should be to MTA, not.
MTA, sorry, MTA.
got it. Sir.
Two things. One is, I know it said resolution of final approval on top, but I thought it said preliminary approval in the text of the resolution.
Because your map actually says preliminary approval.
Okay.
So we just need to fix that.
Okay. And then number two is I'm glad to offer the town, obviously, the parcel, but I don't know, in dealing with the MTA in the past, has been tough. This is actually being provided really to maybe serve other projects in terms of gaining that access to the rail trail. So in terms of having that approval from MTA, I prefer obviously not to be held to that cross. Is it that the town wants to make sure that the MTA is good with it, otherwise they're not going to take the property? You know what I mean? I just don't want to get into a 6-month
Understood.
and
I
I've dealt
think
with
the town would go ahead and commit to taking the property. We've had a continued dialogue with the MTA with the rail trail access, so I don't foresee that being a huge obstacle. While it may take some time, I don't see it being a problem.
Okay, so do we need that
Do you want to alter that
portion of the
condition then?
resolution?
Well, he's going to just offer the piece, and the
Okay.
town board will accept it, yeah.
Okay, then I guess we're not going to condition it upon the approval of the connection to the rail trail by MTA. So we
Okay,
can strike
so
that
we'll
condition.
strike that last verbal condition.
Good, thank you.
You bet. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the planning board shall cause a copy of this resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner. Could I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And we'll do a roll call vote. Board member Lori G.
Aye.
Ed Miyoshi.
Aye.
Sarah Bledsoe.
Aye.
Craig Arco.
Aye.
Richard Campbell.
Aye.
John Eichman. I'm an aye. Passes.
Great, thank you, folks.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Good idea. Okay, the next item on our agenda is Janos Holding LLC.
Hello,
Good evening.
good evening. Hello, just looking for site plan approval for amended site plan. I bought the building in June, and existing, there was a repair shop there and a cabinet maker. So just looking for approval on that.
This is a change of use? No, you're not making any change to the
I'm
property
not making any
itself?
changes, it's all existing. I'm just putting in the handicap spots, the refuse container, and I did want to put a chain link fence along the back, about halfway down the property, just to keep people out of the back area, because there is a wetlands back there, and there's been some dumping back there that I'm not happy about.
Do I understand what the new use is, furniture refinishing?
Yep.
Business? Okay.
They've already been there for years, it's just the previous owner never got any approvals for any of this,
Okay,
so.
got it.
So the fence is there, or you want
So
to?
the one fence I would like to do is about halfway back on the property. It's going to keep everybody out off the back of the area.
Okay. Okay.
So just by way of introduction on this one, so this was an existing use, and the site plan hadn't been updated to reflect, number one, the furniture repair shop that had moved in. Originally, I think the site plan showed it was all automobile repair. And then the previous owner had been renting space in the back without approvals to, I don't want to call them contractors, but certainly commercial vehicles. So there had been a lot of parking of commercial vehicles in the past. And the original site plan had a notation, there was a paved area, and then beyond that, there was a kettle pond. And so there was a notation for there to be a no disturbance area in that kettle pond area. And it's kind of shaped like a flag,
Yeah.
reverse flag, I guess. And pretty much right where the larger portion of the lot juts out, there had kind of been a line drawn, and beyond that line was, and this way was the kettle pond. And then there was shown potentially in the future a location to maybe, I don't know what they were going to use it for, storage of some sort.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was never approved. It was kind of shown on the site plan, but it was never approved. They were supposed to come back if in the future they were going to use it in that way. So what I believe you are proposing to do is to sort of fence off
Yeah.
that back portion. The only thing is you're just a little beyond where the original fence was shown on the map. So I guess you're asking for a little bit additional
Yeah,
space.
I think it's like 10 feet further, something like that.
So just be aware of that. That's a difference in the amendment to the site plan. And then, I don't know, are you still, have you decided not, I mean, it's not a legal use to rent it out for commercial
No, on
vehicles,
here is,
so.
I'm just trying to get 2 spots for 2 flatbeds.
Okay.
That's it.
And the flatbeds are trucks that you use that are ancillary to your automobile repair business. So we had talked about tow trucks and flatbeds being an ancillary use to an automobile, which I think is completely fair. And so he would like to park those in the back.
Yeah.
And I think your application mentioned something about maybe encroaching on some setback lines or something. Is that no longer?
I think that was for the refuse container. I have to put a fence up for the 2 dumpsters, and I wanted to put that along the fence line on one of the sides, basically to keep the middle of the property open for, the trucks that turn around, or any fire trucks, God forbid, or something.
Is that something that's going to require that he
It's in the
see
side
the
yard.
ZBA? Or do we not worry
No,
about that?
I don't think it's going to require ZBA.
Okay,
No.
got it.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Yep. So we're really kind of just trying to approve something that's being
Trying to
currently
codify
done
something
and-
that's already there.
And,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
exactly, yeah.
Just
Got it.
basically clean it up to
Correct.
put it to its permitted.
Correct.
Is that an action we can take this evening, do you think?
Yeah, we can take it by motion, yeah.
That would be okay.
Are there any questions or comments by any board members or other professionals? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the site plan as presented
Thank you.
So moved.
Second. And the change in use as requested.
and the change in use as requested. Fine, yes. So I had a motion from Richard
So moved.
Second.
and second from Lori. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. You're all
Thank you.
set. Thank you.
very much.
So if they want to come in, they can. I mean, I told them, we'll go on the public hearing, but we're going to extend it. Okay. Thanks. Okay, next item on the agenda is Tucker Worth LLR.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I put an application in to request approval for a lot line adjustment totaling 4 acres to be taken from 157 Binwater Road and added to 145 Binwater. And I'm 145 Binwater.
That looked fairly straightforward. Can I ask why you're doing that? Why you're making that?
Just for recreational use.
Okay. And in taking a look at a satellite view of that southern lot, looked like there was some interesting things back in the middle kind of that area?
Yeah, I have some pallets of bluestone that I plan on using for a patio. A couple pallets of cobblestone that I'm using for the front of the house for a flower bed. Pallets that I have stored for firewood use, to put firewood on.
Got it.
Actually, there was a large pile of wood pallets. Those are almost all gone now. They've been removed from the property because I decided to use plastic ones instead because they don't rot. So it's all material to be used for the house.
Got it. Thank you. Any questions by board members? Any questions or comments by professionals? Yes, sir.
Yeah, we had prepared a comment letter. Most of them are minor in nature. The map should be identified as a proposed lot line realignment. Right now, it's listed as a survey. I think they need to provide an EAF for review. The front line of both those parcels follows what's called on the map a center line of a 50-foot wide right-of-way. I think it should be determined whether or not the town owns that right-of-way. I don't know what the disposition of that. On the parcel access, it shows it as a right-of-way, but right now, the lots are shown going down the middle of the street.
Are we talking, I think we're talking about a different one?
No, we're talking about, it's actually, that applied also to the Mary Lane, but it also applies to this
Oh,
application.
it does? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so I think just need to determine what's going on there. Even if that strip is not owned by the applicant, I don't think it's going to make a difference as to whether or not they have enough area to perform the subdivision, but it's more of an administrative item. There's an existing DEC wetland there. I don't know if that needs to be shown. Normally it is, even if it's just shown in a sketch form, because it bisects the front of the southerly parcel from the back to the rear, so that may affect something. And you had the question regarding that material that was piled there towards the back. That's all we had for this.
Okay.
So typically, with a lot line realignment, of this size, we would have to do a public hearing and set a public hearing. Currently, there's legislation before the town board right now to allow for lot line realignments of up to 5 acres without a public hearing. So I think we could go ahead and set one right now, and then if that legislation passes prior to the public hearing date, then you would not have to have that public hearing. You're sort of
Okay.
lucky to be right in the middle of a legislative change here, so.
Unlucky as the case
Are
may
there
be.
minimum lot sizes for that, or is it just any?
It's any exchange of 5 acres or less, I believe is
Okay.
how it reads.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's how it reads.
So are you suggesting we try to set a date somewhat out, just a little farther? Perhaps the November meeting or something?
You can set it for the October meeting, and then if it becomes a moot point, just the public hearing will be canceled.
Okay. Okay. 'Cause
We'll know a week from Thursday whether or not the zoning text amendment's going to pass before
Okay.
then.
Okay, so can I have a motion to schedule a public hearing, tentatively, I guess, but a public hearing for our October 11th, 2022 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so there will either be a public hearing.
Have to advertise, I'm sorry, he's going to have to advertise and pay for advertising, things like that?
So we'll know by the 22nd, is that the day of it? It's 22nd, so.
And then it's October 11th.
Actually,
Enough
it's
time
going to
to
be
advertise.
exactly 20 days.
Push it to November then.
Let's go to November.
Yeah, let's go to November.
We set it for November, right,
Yep.
okay.
Set it
got
for November, he's got a better chance of not having to go through it.
So could I have a motion to amend that motion to establish a public hearing for the November 10th, 2022 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that gives us plenty of time, and assuming that there won't be a public hearing, which sounds like the likely case, then I
We could
guess
have him back on the October 11th.
we could
meeting
have
for
you back in
resolution.
October and
Okay.
approve the project at that time.
Okay, and then obviously, some of these stipulations need to be worked out before October.
Yeah, they sound fairly simple. It sounded like just noting the
I mean,
DEC wetlands
Yeah,
on your
those are the
sketch plan.
wetlands, is that something like I'm going to have to call DEC to come out, map that? Or I don't know how that works exactly.
I don't know, in this case, the proposed action, I mean, they're not proposing to disturb anything. I think if the surveyor can,
Yeah, if the surveyor can probably get, at least show the wetland that's currently shown on the New York State DEC environmental mapper, they have it mapped out, and they should be able to pretty much take
Do a
that
layover.
Are you
data
talking about like the
and-
parcel access? Or is it something
So
different?
parcel access uses that data, but there's actually a New York State DEC environmental mapper that they can go on, and they would probably know about it, but if they don't, they can call the office and I can walk them through it.
Okay,
yeah, I think that pulls from the same data source, both Dutchess County and the state.
It does.
okay.
And Christian, was there anything else that he needs to note on that plan? I've forgotten.
What, I just had another question, in EAF, what is that?
Environmental assessment form.
Okay, oh, it's just a form? Is it
It's a
something?
form, you can probably use the short
Oh,
form
okay.
for that.
Gotcha, okay, thanks.
Fill it out online.
Yeah, I mean, Jackie, maybe, I don't think I have your email address. I can forward you a copy of my letter. You can forward it to your your surveyor.
You mean the email that was sent to me? I can forward that.
Oh, you have it? Okay.
Yeah, I have it.
Just want to make sure you have it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great.
And if your
So,
surveyor has any questions, he can just call me.
Okay, thank you.
great, so you're all set for tonight, thanks. Yep. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the Tom Subdivision, 87 Stormville Road. Actually, I'll go ahead and accept a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the public hearing's open, and Mr. Gillespie.
Okay, good evening. If you recall, this project was also before the planning board last month. This is a 7.5 acre parcel, plus or minus. And it's located at the intersection of Stormville Road and Viking Hill Road. The proposal includes a 3-lot subdivision, 2 lots coming in off of, basically all off of Stormville, rather. And then the third one actually has a long driveway. It's a flag lot that's actually going to be placed in the rear. We did have some steep slopes on the lot and some floodplain in the way back, so that's been detailed on here. If you recall, we also had to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. There's an old barn that resides in the front, so to allow for that setback, which is very tight, we received the approval from the ZBA to allow that. As per the last meeting too, if there was ever a case of having to maintain that barn, when you have it a foot off the property line, it makes it tough. So now we've shown an easement on the pole portion of the flag that allows for somebody to come over the property line to work on that barn if they have to. So I think that's the quick wrap up.
Got it. Are there any questions or comments by board members or professionals before I open this to the public?
Just add a couple minor comments. Should label the access easement. I think it needs some bearings and distances on it. And the description needs to be forwarded to the planning board attorney. And in the SWIP, there's just some minor administrative comments, but other than that, we have no further issue.
Great, thank you. Are there any members of the public here to speak for or against the project? Since there are none, I'll accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have a negative declaration and a resolution. Name of the action, Indigo/Tom 3-lot subdivision. That's an unlisted action, 87 Stormville Road. The proposed action would be consistent with R1 zoning, would not be expected to result in any significant changes to the land uses or character of the surrounding residential neighborhood. The proposed project would not be expected to result in any significant adverse impacts on the environment for the following reasons. It will not generate a significant amount of additional vehicles, noise, or emission levels. Will not result in any impacts to historic or archaeological resources. Will not result in any impacts related to hazardous materials. Will not result in any significant effect on air, water quality, or ambient noise levels. Will not result in unacceptable risk of flooding or major geological hazards. Will not have a substantial aesthetic effect. Will not adversely affect any surface water or groundwater. Will not allow for improper uses within specified zoning districts. Will not result in adverse cumulative impacts. Will not result in adverse growth-inducing impacts, and is consistent with the town's comprehensive plan. This negative declaration was authorized at a meeting of the Planning Board in the town of East Fishkill held on September 13th, 2022. Could I have a motion to approve this negative declaration?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, on to the resolution. Name of the subdivision plan, Indigo Industries/Tom 3-lot subdivision. Whereas the applicant applied for a minor three-lot subdivision of a 6.79-acre parcel containing a barn, whereas the applicant applied for and received an area variance from the East Fishkill Zoning Board of Appeals on June 28, 2022 for a side yard setback and to permit an existing barn/garage to remain on Lot 2 in the front yard, and whereas a public hearing was opened and closed on September 13, 2022, and whereas a negative declaration was adopted by the Planning Board on September 13, 2022, now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby grants subdivision approval for the above project as represented on a map entitled Minor Subdivision Plan Indigo Industries, prepared by M. Gillespie and Associates Consulting Engineer, PLLC, dated January 31st, 2022, and last revised August 31st, 2022, subject to the following conditions. Number one, the removal of the existing southernmost driveway access on Lot 2 behind the existing barn. Number two, maintenance to the existing barn facade. Number three, approval from Dutchess County Board of Health. And if there are no other conditions, be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the planning board shall cause a copy of this resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner. I will show as the planning board member who offered that resolution. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, and we'll do a roll call vote. Board member Lori G.
Aye.
Ed Miyoshi.
Aye.
Sarah Bledsoe.
Aye.
Craig Arco.
Aye.
Richard Campbell.
Aye.
John Eichman. I'm an aye. Carries.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Fires Bridges Subdivision. Is there anyone here for the applicant Fires Bridges Subdivision? Jackie, is there a possibility they're in the ante room or anything?
Who's the engineer on that? What? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, good.
Hi, sorry. I wasn't paying attention.
Good evening.
Good evening. Amy Bombardieri here for the Bridges subdivision.
Excellent.
How do I, doesn't usually just pop up? Can you help me? I can't see your whole drive. No, it didn't.
You know what, is take this off and take it out. CD goes out, that's why.
Oh.
Let's try and get that off.
Figures it's Gillespie's fault.
Sometimes in here.
You can't see like everything. Hit this drop down. No. I don't know. Computer.
It's not on that 166 gauge stick,
Where do you see that?
down below where it says devices.
No, that's the C drive. That's the C drive.
Yeah, if it's not under this PC, it's not
I know.
finding it.
Okay.
Did you take it out and try to?
Yeah, we did that.
Okay.
So
Turn it off, turn it back on again?
since we were last here, I believe there was there was a meeting with the highway super, and the driveways where they're placed now are acceptable to him. We're providing a grading and site distance easement. We're removing stone walls that are in
I'll do it.
two different areas. We have a temporary grading easement between the long driveway and the driveway, the shorter driveway next to that parcel.
Can I interrupt you for just a second?
Yes.
Because I failed to open up the public hearing. I'd like to go ahead and do that and make this all part of the public hearing. So could I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. And all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the public hearing is open. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Do you want me to say that again?
Please continue.
Okay, so the driveways are okay where they are. We have the two easements, the grading easement, the temporary grading easement for the driveways and the site distance, and we're removing there it is. We're removing the stone walls to increase the site distance, and like I said, I'm not sure when the meeting was, but I think Kenny was out there with Brian Stokosev. Thank you. Sorry, guys. There we go. So there's stone walls up in the front here at that curve, which is where they're going to be removed, and that'll increase the site distance. The temporary grading easement is here. And I don't remember what other concerns were of the board. I think-
The length of the long driveway to make sure it's got enough pull-offs. It looks like it's got one, but it might need two.
Well, that would be a question for the fire advisory board. I don't know if
Oh, no,
they...
it's code, right?
Yeah, it's code.
It's code. It's very slow. It's not like flipping pages.
What's that?
What's the disturbance going to be? Over 5 acres?
No, they're under 5.
Even with the existing building?
What?
That's got to count.
Yeah,
Can I play with this after this?
There we go.
That's only included. Yeah, they're at 4 acres, then they're not at 5. They still need to provide a SWIP, and I think they did, I just didn't get it.
I'm going to start bringing boards again.
So we're going to have it like delineated to ensure that they don't go over 5 acres as a requirement should be.
That's something I'm gonna suggest.
It's 1,120 feet long.
So it needs two, right?
Um,
Isn't it one every 5?
It's supposed to be one every 5, but the other one would be at the top of the driveway, so I think
Well, you would space them evenly. You would do a third, and a third.
I kind of remember we could do a third and third. Right now, there is only one, but I kind of remember that being acceptable, because if you put it in the middle, the next 500 feet, you're at the top, you can turn around up there. It's only 1,100 feet long, including the top turnaround. But I'll double check that.
Okay. Other questions and comments? Christian?
I had a number of comments. They're proposing some work within the town right-of-way, so that's going to be subject to the appropriate highway work permit. Town highway super is going to need to sign off on those, and it may require securing of a performance bond in a form acceptable to the town for all that work. For the proposed Lot 2 building under construction, we'd like to see a copy of the approved plans and approval letter from Dutchess County Health Department. The driveway for Lot 1 is shown with a ditch or a swale along the side. We just want to make sure that that ditch or swale isn't going to impact the approved system that's for the house that's under construction. We'll need some descriptions for the proposed easements, like some spot grades. The grading shown and the profile for Lot 1, they're not consistent with one another. I think they just need to be synchronized a little bit more. Based upon the grading plans, some of the driveway grades appears to approach 20% in a couple locations, so I think they just need to take a look at their model. One of the bigger concerns we have here is there's a culvert for the Lot 1 driveway at around Station 5+40. It's near where the first pull-off is. It looks like it's going to be accepting runoff from about 3 1/4 acres and 380 feet of driveway. It's going to be funneled to a point, going through a culvert, and then discharged onto a property that's 30 feet away. So we're concerned about concentrating that point discharge. They do show a level spreader, but it's only 10 feet wide. And right now, the area appears to be close to 400 feet, and they're sort of a natural funnel when you look at the topo, but it's going to be kind of amplifying that, so we just want to make sure that there's no adverse impact to the property adjoining there to the north. And a couple other, just minor comments. Those are the main ones that we have for this project.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, board members or professionals? If not, I'll open it to the public. Are there any members of the public here to speak?
John.
Excuse me?
I think Jackie's on.
Yes. So when you do come up to speak, please sign in. Sign your name on the sign-in sheet, and you can come ahead whenever you're ready. And we do ask that everybody make sure that you speak into the mic so that everyone will hear you and it will be properly recorded.
Good evening. My name is Richard Martin. I own the property, Lot 37 at Squire Farms Road, which is behind this proposed addition. And I'd like to know the impact that this will have on Devon Farms Road, particularly in lieu of flooding. We've had major water issues up there on that hill. Forgive my simplicity, but if this was Eder Road and this was Stormville Mountain Road, Devon Farms Road, excuse me, what side of that hill are these homes going to be built on? And how will that impact Squires Farms, both in terms of water, which I'm very concerned about, and in terms of turning my home or the homes on Devon Farms into flag lots, essentially? How far can they clear cut? How far does the building envelope from those properties? I got a letter that really said nothing. There was no letterhead. There was not even a signature on this thing. So I'm completely in the dark. I hope I'm in the right place, asking the right questions.
Absolutely.
You are in the right place for the right questions. And what we'll do, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, is we'll collect the questions that are asked by you and by other members of the public, and then we'll ask Amy to come to the podium and answer all of them. So
Okay.
we'll keep track of that.
I guess my biggest concern is, previous presentation, I heard the word buffer. And my concern is if they clear cut, right up to my lot, I'm now in a flag lot situation, which I didn't spend $1 million for to be in that situation. I'm certainly not opposed to progress, but I want to understand what the impact is, not only to me, but to our entire development. So, thank you.
Welcome. Excuse me, sir. Can you show us on the drawing where your
Yeah,
residence
Amy, I
is?
think if you,
Yeah, pull that.
if you bring up the cover page, you can
Page
see his
1.
lot, I believe, in the corner. The previous page.
Lot 37.
Yep,
In Devon Farms?
Which piece is subject?
this is his subject.
Oh, no,
Here, where's the piece?
Well, so I assume you're up all the way in the back, top left of the page?
At the top, up and over to the left. You can see 37 up there. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that house is very far away from the property line, and I don't imagine them getting it any closer than that because it's just gonna be...
Is it also higher? Is it also higher?
Maybe. Let's see if we can tell. Seems like
There's like a real mouse.
Higher or above the ridge?
I'm
gonna bring
There's the ridge right there. There's
It
37.
does, especially when, it's 450 feet where it's shown right now. 450 feet from that rear property line. So if you're in the corner, if you're in the left corner, then it's...
Can't read them.
Okay, so the proposal would be,
I can look in the area. Let's see if we can see in there.
Well, it's a private parcel, so, sorry, should I address?
Please, yeah, please.
It's a private parcel, so a homeowner could go in there and, you know, they have the same rights you have, but an 1,100-foot driveway is not cheap. I don't see them going any further than that and trying to access deeper in.
what is the builders, I understand once they own it, they can do whatever they want, but what's your proposal in terms of clear cutting? Are you going to leave a buffer? Or...
I wouldn't clear cut it much at all. I mean, enough for a yard, personally. I don't, but again, somebody buys the parcel, they can do,
I understand.
Yeah.
My concern is the construction of the new home.
I would want as much privacy as you would want.
I would think, and is that on the Devon Farm side of the hill, or is that on the Eder side of the hill? And access, I'm understanding, is from Eder.
Access is from Eder.
But from a grade standpoint, where the home's going to be, is it higher based on what we're seeing here, the new proposed home?
It drains towards Eder, I believe.
I think Devon
Got
Farms
it.
is higher.
I think they're just asking if the elevation of the house is going to be
Yeah.
taller than
So from the house back, it goes up, so it's lower.
it's low.
So it's going to drain towards Eder. It shouldn't,
The new house is longer than his house.
On the Eder side of the mountain, or the hill?
Yeah.
yeah, it's on,
840.
there's a lot of ridges and, yeah, it's going to drain towards Eder. It's not going to drain towards you.
I understand where it's going to drain. Where is the building at? Is it on the Eder side or on the Stormville, on the Devon Farm side?
It's on the Devon Farms side. Where the house is shown, it drains to the northwest.
The home itself
It's right there.
will be behind me.
Yes.
The direction of flow is going to be up and to the left.
So it's 450 feet.
Again, though, this is just, so a plan like this, the only thing that's set in stone, we get the approval for the septic system, that has to go where it has to go. Somebody can put the house wherever they want. So I honestly, I can't imagine somebody wanting to spend more money to get the house further back and closer to more property. I mean, people, you don't buy a parcel like this
I
typically.
can't imagine that either, except the views up there are spectacular, and then you want to just clear cut.
Well, within reason.
So, but my point is, when the parcel's sold, the builder, the homeowner can put that house pretty much anywhere they want as long as it doesn't interfere with things that are engineered, like the septic system.
So there's not a
proposed
designed building envelope by the town?
There are yard setbacks, which are shown that we can't construct within that, but it looks like they're only about 40 feet. 50
Maybe
feet.
address that question, though. I mean, right now, they're under a total of 5 acres of
Right now,
disturbance.
they're less than 5, so if they exceed 5 acres of total disturbance, they would have to come back and get a stormwater pollution prevention plan with full quality and quantity controls. But as long as they stay underneath the 5-acre threshold, they're good to go. But
I would think that's motivation to avoid the requirements of a full
Disturbance, yeah.
Just more
But again,
cost.
we're going to require that they delineate the disturbance on the plan, and they'll be held to that.
Okay, great. Other members of the public who are here to speak, please just be sure to sign in.
Hi, I'm Jean DeLeo. We are the property, I believe, right in, next to, or right before as you head down Eder Road, lot number 3. So it's the very first one. Just a question about the sale of this, when you subdivide. That's my first question. When you subdivide, are you planning on building houses and then selling them? Or is the subdivision going to take place and then selling vacant lots? I can't answer that.
Yeah.
Do you want to save that question, and we'll continue to collect some questions?
Exactly.
And then my question was the same as with clear cut. I mean, we enjoy our property up there on our mountain. We enjoy the trees, and I know you have no control over new people coming in and taking down trees and clearing things. My question kind of pertains to if they're going to sell, do they plan on clear cutting everything and then selling the lots just so they're easier for everyone to see? We see a lot of that around here lately, not here, but in other counties, where they will wipe out an entire mountain just to sell it. Then 52 down in Putnam County, they did that, and the mountain's gone. So just wondering if that's the plan, if they're going to take everything down and then go and break everything up, and so it's just easier to look at a piece of property. So, all right. Also, in our piece of property where we are, our house is fairly set back, but we get runoff off of Eder Road. There is a drain on our side, right? Right at the corner, right at the end of our property, right at the corner of Lot 3 where it starts. There's a storm drain there. But we do get a lot of water that comes down. Our house sits down, you got to go down the driveway. But there is a lot of water there. We get a lot of water, which I assume is going to go down into Lot 3. So when it does rain, we get, even last week, right? Al, we had...
Eder Road, in the wintertime, a lot of water runs down that road.
Yeah.
Building 3 more houses and all that water.
If you're going to speak, if you would
Yeah.
come up.
You need to
I
speak, you got to
appreciate
come
it.
up
You
here
have
too.
to sign in.
I'll write your name. I'll sign you in.
Thank you. My name's Al DeLeo. I live on Eder Road. So yes, there's a lot of water that does run down Eder when it rains heavy. There definitely isn't enough drainage there right now. So that's something that should be addressed, I think. I was also concerned about the clear cutting. Devon's Farms back, I don't know how many years ago that was, but that whole hill was taken out, and all you see is houses, no trees. So I don't want our property to look like that.
So, yeah, so that's just our questions for the seller. What are they going to do? Are they going to break the lots up and sell them, or and clear cut them, or do they plan on breaking them up and building the houses, then selling them? So, all right.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's it.
We'll make sure that,
There might be a few other things.
go ahead.
Blasting, are they going to be blasting? I know there's a lot of rock in that area. I'm concerned about that. New wells being dug. I mean, right now we're in a drought. Is this going to affect our well and other wells?
There's houses behind us.
So, we do have some concerns.
Just some questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other members of the public who have questions or comments?
Good evening, I'm Jerry Castaldo. I am on 556 Eder Road, next to DeLeo's, next to the Serwins, and immediately adjacent to the property in question. My concerns are similar to Alan Jean's about the clear cutting and the property, but actually even more broadly. Like the first gentleman who spoke, we get a letter, weeks before this, and is this a done thing? I know that when we bought the property, our property, it was more than 20 years ago, there had been deed restrictions. I don't know where these deed restrictions reside, but I had to get a variance just to put up vinyl siding on my house. And now, one of the big deed restrictions was no subdivisions. I had my 5 acres. I could not make that any smaller. This is the property you got, you put your house on it. So my question becomes, are there deed restrictions on this land? Is there anything here saying, or is this an appeal against those deed restrictions that say you can break up the land? Because it seems like we're putting a lot of houses up front, right on Stormville, right on Eder Road, As far as the clear cutting, Tony walked the land, and I've been seeing next to mine that, yeah, right up to the property line, we're clear. You were asking about the property, it's clear, it's gone. So we have a little bit of a buffer. I'm thinking about putting in some more trees because I've got a view of the house right outside my bedroom and my windows, my office window. So are there restrictions, or had there been restrictions about this subdividing? Is this done? Is this in ink? Is this just a sweetener? Is this going to happen? And that's pretty much it. Yeah, is this going to happen? Is this already an approved thing?
It's not already approved. That's the reason for the public hearing and to collect comments and to make certain that everything is done
I
properly.
appreciate that. Thank you. One last item. I moved off of Long Island to avoid this. Okay? On my property, I did the math, for an average-sized lot there would be 88 people on my 5/8. We're a family of 4. There would be 88 people. So, again, that's my concern, is just more people coming in. And yes, the wells, are we going to have a problem with water and things like that? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Other comments?
Evening, my name is Tony Serwin. I live in the area. I have a comment about water. There is a drainage issue. I believe my property has a DEC requirement that I maintain a portion of my land free so that water can drain. I have, along my driveway, I have 3 36-inch culverts that I had to put in to allow that water to drain. A little bit further north, which is down the hill, Mr. Castaldo also has drains under his driveway that pick up this water. I do know that in the past, when we've had a lot of water, that area will fill up with a lot of water. That land now is right along where the edge of the roadway goes down, where I believe they're talking about driveways and houses very close to the edge of that property down there. So my concern is, if we're going to be draining all of this water coming down the hill, where's it going to go? It's not on the road. I know there's a lot of water that runs down the road, but it comes down these culverts. And those culverts in the past years, we're getting a lot more excessive storms in the area. And when we get some water, there's a lot of water comes flowing down there. I'm afraid of a washout. We've had washouts, and a lot of gravel and stuff comes on the road because water comes down from people's land. But that area, to me, seems to be in a area that's susceptible to a lot of water runoff. So I don't know, I'm not an engineer. Just from observation over the last 25 years up there, I'm concerned about the water that would be running right down into this property. Thank you.
Other questions and comments?
Yeah, I would just like to add the concerns of the water. I've had to put in multiple drains in my backyard. And when you get the spring runoff, I have 5 levels of drains going down my backyard, and they can't handle it. So it just comes swooping off of that hill or mountain, or whatever you want to define it as. But I do have concerns about how that would be handled, particularly since my property, they're telling me it's far away, but 451 feet isn't that far, particularly as water moves. So I do have those concerns, and I'd like those to be stated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no one else who wishes to speak, we'll ask Amy to come back to the podium, and Amy, maybe you can respond to all of these questions that were raised, please.
Yes, you can.
I'm going to address the deed restriction first. There's not going to be deed restrictions, but there is zoning requirements, and there's minimum lot sizes. And this parcel, the large parcel, I don't see anywhere else a septic system could go, so there's no way it would be subdividable if we couldn't get a septic system approved. So I think nature is providing those deed restrictions on that lot. As far as drainage.
Amy, was there existing deed restriction?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Well, so the existing deed, in Devon Farms, that was a subdivision that had deed restrictions. I don't think, I don't know, actually. I'll have to double check that.
I believe these people are on Eder Road, correct? And so they're saying that they were aware of deed restrictions for their properties. They're wondering, is there not a deed restriction on this?
Okay. That would be in the deed, which is on file at the county clerk, so we can look into that.
Their client's title report would probably have it.
Yeah, right, thank you. Drainage for Eder Road, I should have said this before. We have level spreaders and riprap swales coming down the road, and then it's going to cross the road under a culvert. So everything from this, the runoff from this site will be diverted through a culvert to the other side of Eder Road.
So it's going into an existing
catch
stormwater
basin.
management system?
Correct. Remind me of the other concerns, please.
So there was a question, so is the owner going to be building houses or selling lots?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that. And then, so the clear cutting, usually that happens because of the bats. So if there's a project that's coming online and we're getting into spring, March 15th, the lots have to be cleared in the winter, so up until March 15th. So if there is a lot of clear cutting going on, you see it like right around the beginning of March. That's usually why that happens, but I don't know that, I don't think they would clear cut these. I don't see why that would be, but again, I can't speak for the owner.
Okay.
Scott, is there an evaluation in place for the existing stormwater management that's there, that's accepting of what it is that they're going to put into it?
Well, there's not currently one in place, but now that they've identified a potential problem at this public hearing, we will look into it.
Thank you.
It sounds like that goes along with the question you raised as well, right, Christian? As to how it's being then distributed.
Right.
Stormwater.
Currently, if they're under the 5 acres, the DEC would not require them to do a full SWIP with permanent quality and quantity controls. However, the planning board may direct the applicant to do a more detailed drainage study to evaluate the effects on adjacent properties or the town's storm collection system.
And I think it would be on both ends, because there's public speaking here today that there's existing issues, that there's a feeling or a general sentiment that's not managed properly right now. So if we're talking about adding additional into what's existing, there could be potential for a greater risk here.
So Amy, that's something you can evaluate and come back to us with?
Yep.
Okay. Blasting was a question. Is there going to be blasting?
That I don't know, but there are the town has requirements for if there is blasting. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay.
Definitely a rocky area.
And then
I know. I'm
the
aware.
last thing, I
For the
guess, is, well, I'm sorry,
No,
Lori.
go ahead.
A general understanding, just so that some of the people that spoke in the public understand how the domestic water, your well water testing is done and what's required of these lots to be approved, so that they understand how that might affect or not affect their existing well systems.
So the wells the Department of Health requires that the wells be into bedrock, so they're into an aquifer, and they have to have a minimum flow rate of 5 gallons a minute. And the typical usage of water for a 4-bedroom home on the high end is 110 gallons per day per bedroom. So I don't foresee the impact of these 4 wells impacting the neighbors. I mean, these are fairly large parcels that it's not getting crammed in. They're probably going to be deep. They're probably going to be pretty deep wells, right?
Yeah, on top
1,000
of the
feet or so?
Yeah, they're on top of the mountain,
Yeah,
so
it's
not a
gonna
rock.
No, it's not in the watershed.
It's like,
I hope so.
Okay. And then I think that one of the last gentlemen mentioned something about a DEC requirement to accept stormwater. I mean, I think that should probably if you can take a look at that as your overall stormwater review.
Well, I think, yes, but I think what he was referring to is, he said he had to keep a portion of his property vacant. So I just think that that's a limitation on impervious, which the town also has a percentage, maximum percentage, but because these lots are large, I don't think, I think there's also going to be a fair amount of green space on each of them.
Got it. So if there aren't any other questions, I think we want to keep this public hearing open for the next
We
meeting.
have one more question.
Oh, do we have one more? Excuse me, sir. Go ahead.
I've heard a lot about drainage, and I heard you say that you're going to look into the drainage, but I've heard all the drainage answers, everything's draining to Etta Road or Eda Road. However, I was also heard this evening that one of the homes will be built on the Devon Farm side of the mountain. What is going to be the drainage situation there, particularly the impact of when they're cutting and building, there's nothing to hold anything back. There's going to be tremendous water runoff there. And how is that going to be dealt with? So I'd ask you to please add that into what you're doing on the Eder side. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll ask Amy to include that in her analysis.
I just wanted to make a comment. There is a threatened and endangered species report done for the subdivision, and it explicitly states that, regarding the Indiana bat, that the proposed project will require about 0.24 acres of tree clearing of the upland forest area. The disturbance activities will not result in adverse effects to the species, since the trees to be removed are young and generally less than 3 inches DBH with no characteristics. So this is saying that you only intend to clear 0.24 acres of this site. So we can certainly make that a condition of the resolution.
Is that even enough to put in the driveway?
Yeah.
That's not even enough for a
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Doesn't make any sense.
That's my point. So I'm not sure why that's in there.
That's for the whole
Because that's
site?
going to be, this is part of the
Are they
secret review.
differentiating the upland forest area from other areas, or is it all upland forest area? That I don't know.
They have any maps in there?
So-
0.24 gets you about 200 feet into the property.
Yeah, they're not even have enough to make a driveway.
I'll have to look
It's
at
a
that.
site.
Okay.
It refers to it as a site, so I don't know what they were,
Well, it sounds like it's good news that they intend to limit it somewhat, so
they're
we'll
saying
need
of
more
the
detail.
16.14 acres of mixed upland forest, only 0.24 acres would be disturbed.
So they are differentiating types of forest.
They have bare ground rock and 16.14 acres of mixed upland forest.
Total disturbance, about 4 acres.
That's for the bare rock, and then the disturbance area in the upland forest is only 0.24.
Right.
So everything else is built. So Michelle, is that something we would then restrict in the approval, that they can't clear more
Well,
than that?
They're basing our,
Already
we're
doing it.
basing our secret analysis on this report as far as what the impacts are to the threatened and endangered species. So it's something that certainly needs to be clarified.
We're proposing 4 acres of disturbance with this layout. So there's got to be differentiation between,
Well, they're saying there's bare ground rock, that's
Right.
3.75 acres, and of the forested area, the mixed upland forest, only 0.24 acres would be disturbed. And they're
Okay.
saying the rest of it is bare ground and rock that would be disturbed.
okay.
So it doesn't sound like they're going to be clear cutting the lots, if that makes you feel better.
Right.
Well, I think.
So there's a
follow up on
So you'll clarify that for us, right?
I will clarify. Also, the construction portion of the runoff, we have to have a SWIP in place, a stormwater, well, we have to have a erosion and sediment control plan in place, which includes methods of diverting and attenuating the stormwater on site so that you're not getting like muddy runoff. And that is enforceable by the town.
Right.
Michelle, one last question. I'm assuming there's an ESL, it just looks like there's a lot of steep slopes.
We talked about
Did
that
you
last time.
did you do anything with the steep slopes analysis for their lot? Count for
They
them?
shaded the areas, they indicated slopes in excess of 33%.
I don't see any.
It's not shown on, might be shown on the map with the topo.
So those dark gray areas are over 33%.
And nothing else on the property is, some of those lines look very close.
Yeah.
Very, very close.
It might be close, but I mean, we can run it over the whole parcel and then shade whatever's 33% or greater.
Did you provide a net density calculation for this? Is that on the, maybe on the cover sheet
Yeah.
with the bulk tag, bulk regs?
So if there's nothing else, we'll keep this open for the next meeting and give you an opportunity to respond to the questions that are primarily related to clear cutting, stormwater, blasting was a question.
Deed restrictions.
Deed restrictions.
Deed restrictions.
Restrictions.
Right.
Driveway profile.
The grade was a,
And grade.
Driveway grade, right.
Yep. And we'll go from there. So we will see you again at our meeting on October 11th, 2022.
To adjourn to October 11th?
So, yes, could we have a motion to adjourn to that date?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
yes. So just to let everybody know, you may come back, and if you aren't able to make it to the next meeting, you have any further thoughts or comments you want to share in writing, you can do that as well, and send that to the planning department, and they'll share it with us, and we'll make certain that all of that is taken into account. You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Take care. Yep. Okay. We'll give everybody an opportunity to leave.
File out.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, iPark Building A, we are actually going to schedule a new public hearing for that will take place on October 11th, 2022, in order to consider both the site plan approval and subdivision. Could I have a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I did say that I would accept comments if there's anybody here that wanted to comment on it, since we do have an open public hearing.
Ground and rocky over there.
But if there are none,
Tree standing there.
I think it's better we all talk at the next meeting anyway, so we're good to go. We also have Summit Woods and Montage Subdivision. We'll start with Summit Woods, and we will open the public hearing or reopen the public hearing on that. Could I have a motion to reopen the public hearing on Summit Woods?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So with Summit Woods, we will be, the applicant and their professionals will be meeting with the town professionals. There are several things that they're going to be trying to work through, so we will keep this public hearing open to a date uncertain at this point, but we will accept comments tonight, and we'll certainly be accepting comments when we reschedule the next public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Sorry, I missed the beginning of that.
So we're on Summit Woods. Is there anything that you wanted to present to us, Amy, on that?
So since the last time we were here, I addressed technical comments and resubmitted, and I met with the town to go over some of those things before I resubmitted, and I don't remember there being any new comments from, especially for Summit. It was mostly addressed during Montage, but any new comments from the public that didn't seem, that weren't heard before or addressed in the whole seeker process and the EIS process. So I don't think there was anything to
So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we still have a number of outstanding questions with regards to the plans themselves.
There are technical things outstanding. There are things that I don't have enough information for, because we're also working with the town, obviously, to do the sewer and water connection. So I don't have technical information on the actual sewer pump stations themselves. There's still, so that's going to affect the phasing plan, and that'll require more information from how to go about, how the town's going to go about connecting to the property lines of each of Summit Woods. So the understanding is the town will provide up to the property line. We provide everything on our property up to our property line, and they meet together. So that's going to affect the phasing plan, which will be addressed. And I think everything outstanding is technical.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Good evening, Andy Gilchrist, project attorney. Good to see you again. One thing, if the board would consider this approach, I think I do concur with Amy that many of the outstanding issues are technical in nature. Certainly, this is another public hearing that's been continued to allow the public to comment generally on the subdivision plan. Well, one approach to consider is there has been public comment received. If the board could consider closing the public hearing but continue to work with the technical consultant for both Summit and Montage and work through that. If there's any concern about the time that may take, certainly the Summit Woods applicant will consider extending any applicable timeframes. But in terms of the public hearing, this is certainly the second night recently for the public hearing, and given the fact that the outstanding issues are technical in nature and should really be addressed between the technical staffs for the town and the applicant, we hope the board would consider, subject to comments tonight, of closing the public hearing but allowing the consultants to continue to work on the technical issues. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So one holdup to that plan is that we know some members of the public aren't here tonight because they believe that the public hearing is going to be held open. So I think we'd be afraid that maybe not all comments will be received.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure how the public didn't think. This was the continuation of the public hearing for this evening. There was no notice, to my knowledge, that it would be continued after tonight?
Unfortunately, I'm sorry you weren't here. I made an announcement at the beginning of the meeting that our intent was to permit the meetings to occur with the town professionals and that we were going to hold this open to a date uncertain. And several people did actually get up and leave knowing that they could come back.
Would explain it.
Time.
We did see them leaving before the start of the meeting.
So sorry about that. And the issues are, I think, significant enough in terms of number of issues that we really would like to have a more complete set of plans and answers to a lot of the technical questions before we close the public hearing. I think it's appropriate. Are there any members of the public? Okay, I was just reminded we have two letters. One says, okay, regarding Montage and Summit Woods subdivision. I will go ahead and read this all the way through since I can't summarize it easily since I haven't looked at it before. Due to an abundance of caution, I cannot attend this evening's public hearing. I submit the herein letter as my notice of objection and ask that the board consider the following before rendering a decision. First and foremost, tonight's hearing should be postponed or the project should be denied outright. The project developers have not updated the signs on Route 52 as they promised they would in late 2021. The previous signs were not replaced and were destroyed by the elements over the winter. The one sign they did install at the junction of Route 52 and 216 is unreadable due to the small font and placement. The hearing date was only written on the sign last week. Montage has also provided a picture of the inadequate sign, including no date for the hearing on their website. As of this afternoon, no other signs are visible along the subject area of Route 52, which is truly remarkable given the size and scope of these projects. Further, the developers were given specific instructions by the board as to the type, design, and placement needed for the public hearing signs, and despite having over 9 months to post the appropriate signs, they failed to do so. That in and of itself is cause for the projects to be denied, and I strongly urge the board to deny these applications based on just this aspect alone. It should also be noted that these respective projects have been in development for decades, and the developers cannot even meet the simple task of posting signs as directed by the board. As a result of the developers' failure to follow the board's directions, most of the residents of East Fishkill were not informed of this transformative project and imperative hearing. And that was written by Jeffrey Devine, 14 Old Route 52, Stormville, New York. The other letter, written by Thomas Brady. I'm unable to attend the upcoming board meeting. I'm writing, would like my concerns read aloud, therefore my thoughts represented during the meeting. I am a resident of 350 Seaman Road in Stormville. This proposed construction affects my property as it borders the back end of the site. The property on which a residence is proposed has a severe slope. Please look at the topographical map for slope reference. As with most local new builds, the homeowners and/or builders will remove a large percentage of existing trees and ground cover. This is most commonly done to provide an optimum yard and view. My immediate concern is with the excessive amount of runoff that is certain to occur from this site due to the slope of the property on two sides of the lot. As with the existing home in the subdivision, the property will cause dangerous flooding to the road as well as to the property and homes located below it. This summer I witnessed the type of damaging flooding and runoff that was caused by this first home in the subdivision. As a homeowner in this neighborhood, I would like to be informed of the proposal to alleviate or avoid the damage created by this proposed build. So those are the two letters. Excuse me, there is another.
The Wappingers one with the letterhead.
Yeah, we got this one too.
You know what? There's more from Mr. Devine's letter. This I will try to summarize. Mr. Devine's letter that was concerned about the signage. He also says if the board does decide to move forward with the hearing, please consider the following. The size and scope of the project is far too large. A smaller project like Pumpkin Glen would be far more reasonable. The issue, as the board has raised it, that a moderate subdivision is not cost effective for the developers. Moving on, item 2, the environmental impact studies posted on the Montage website are stale. The last environmentals posted are dated from 2017. These studies need to be redone with consideration to the devastating storm surges we've faced in the recent years. The impact on wildlife from these storms is already evident, as there were far less deer in the subject area. Item 3, the traffic plan presented by the developers in late 2021 is illogical and undercalculated. If Montage and Summit are approved, that will be an additional 300 houses added to the Route 52 subject area. More appropriate calculation would be 2.5 cars per household, which equals an additional traffic load of 810 cars per day. Stormville is not equipped to handle that additional traffic. Item 4, the proposed subdivisions are surrounded by and border too closely to wetlands and floodplains. Last year's storm surges would have destroyed any new construction that had begun. These storm surges are not irregular and have in fact become annual and devastating. There were trees down in residence yards this year for over 6 months, and those same lands were flooded along the Route 52 subject area until winter. The trees were cleared this spring nearly a year later. Item 5, the proposed projects are of no benefit to the community. The only benefit is for the town and the added tax revenue. Local buyers cannot afford a starting price of $600,000, and given the increasingly supply costs, $800,000 seems far more likely. We will be left with, once again, cash buyers from downstate paying over market and raising our assessments, just as we saw in the latest tax roll posted in May 2022. In closing, if this project is approved and completed, the community will be faced with escalating school budgets, which will likely reach $300 million. Parens, class sizes will increase, new teachers will need to be hired, and new buses will need to be purchased, close paren. By the time this project is completed, and that is a cost the local homeowner cannot bear. So $300 million by the time this project is completed, and that is a cost the local homeowner cannot bear. So once again, we are faced with this area being overtaken by cash buyers and sellers fleeing to Florida, and quite frankly, we have lost far too many good citizens to Florida. Please put a stop to this madness. Thank you for your time and courtesies. Jeffrey Devine. We also have a letter from the Superintendent of Schools of Wappingers Central School District, dated September 9th, 2022. Dear members of the Town Planning Board, I'm aware that a public hearing will take place on September 13th regarding the proposed housing development projects of the Montage and Summit Woods in Stormville. The Wappingers Central School District has some concerns regarding the development of nearly 300 single-family homes that will directly impact enrollment in the Gayhead Elementary School attendance zone. Depending upon the number of school-age students who will reside in these developments, there is the potential for an unfavorable increase in class size and space capacity concerns. Due to the location of these developments within the Gayhead ES attendance zone, we may be forced to make difficult decisions regarding the current attendance zones that will impact already established communities within that boundary, as well as those who reside in these developments. In the event that these projects come to fruition, I believe that, in the best interest of the families in the Gayhead attendance zones, discussion occur between the district and the developers to determine the willingness of the developers to provide a financial commitment to the district to address the necessary infrastructure changes in Gayhead Elementary School that the impact of these projects may have, and that is not to be absorbed by the district taxpayers. Thank you for your consideration. Dr. Dwight Bonk. I believe that's all. Those are all of the letters to be read into the record. Do we have members of the public who have some questions or comments? Please come up and sign in.
Good evening. Deb Jackson. I live 216, just on the other side of Brady's Power Equipment. So while the development does not directly impact me, it indirectly impacts me. I have enough problems getting out of my driveway as it is. An additional 300 houses will certainly make that even more difficult. A couple of things I know folks have, and I'm glad to hear about the school district, because one of my concerns was that there was a letter from 2017 based upon a 2005 district survey, and it was said enrollment was down. And I was going to make a comment like that should probably be updated, and not speaking on behalf of the school district, but clearly they have busing problems. If you've been around the community, you've seen the buses with the big signs. Also, the traffic circle, that's just not a good idea. And especially because there's an additional 6 acres or 6 development lots being proposed right at the end, on the opposite side of where the development is. So how exactly is that whole traffic circle thing going to work with that development plus Montage? And then at the last town meeting, I heard, and you've all heard, the concerns around the speed there. Granted, New York State is driving that traffic circle thing, but still not a good idea. The other thing that I don't hear people talking about, and coming from a family from the fire district, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of the fire district, I'm going to speak on behalf of what I hear. My husband being a volunteer fireman, my son as well. The fire department is hanging on by a thread as far as volunteers go. Constantly there's a call out to the community to get volunteers to come and be a part of the fire service. It's not working. Certainly developments of this magnitude will push that over the limit of what the fire service can offer. Subsequently, the same with EMS. I do know that there's a paid service here in town, and that paid service, even just in general, continues to have problems responding to emergencies in this area. And often we've had to call, there's calls for mutual aid from other surrounding areas. That's a concern just in the general safety the public and their health emergencies. The increase in traffic, I mean, I'm slightly disappointed that not more people are here, but it's not just, this doesn't just impact Stormville itself. It impacts even, our Hopewell hamlet. I can't just get on a bus and from my house over in Stormville and just come over here to Hopewell to go shopping. I have to get in a car. I have no choice. I could ride my bike, and actually, oddly enough, riding my bike gets me to Hopewell faster of late, go figure, but it's just what we're left with. And speaking of what we're left with, I have grave concerns. I have no doubts that the developers are taking every care to think about wildlife and water and all that stuff. But the problem is when they leave. And that's the concerns. We as a town, we have challenges with being able to maintain the roads that we currently have. So when the developers leave, who takes over these roads, the maintenance of that? We've all heard and the need for pavement on roads and whatnot. Adding more to this already painful area is just probably not a good idea. The other thing, honestly, I mean, I did hear that there was going to be a donation of a crosswalk from that development over to the rail trail. A crosswalk really isn't needed. I'd take that money that would be invested in a crosswalk, even though it's minimal because it would just be painted lines, and donate it to the fire department so they can increase their fire apparatus, and even for an additional paid ambulance service. I mean, this is the reality. These are downstream impacts to existing residents as new people come here. The other thing, so obviously traffic issues, big concern. I can't even get my mail. I get my mail on Sunday in hopes that there's a break in the traffic where I can actually cross the road. But light pollution, there's 29 proposed street lights. Why? It's a little bright. The other concern, and I know nobody's probably thought about this, and I know the town is probably going to say, well, it's not my problem, but it will be the problem when the residents start screaming about electricity. With the new governor in place and the mandates that all new homes will have to be electric-based, I mean, that's just a huge electric grid issue, and we've already, as I've heard on previous town meetings, there's already issues down in I Park with basic utilities. We don't need to bring that to Stormville, in my mind. Water issues, we've got the issues over in Four Corners. Luckily, I'm still on a well. I have no plans on ever hooking into a town water facility, and especially after hearing all of the outlying water district problems and well problems and whatnot, that's a no thank you. So I would rather see investments be made by the town to fix the current issues going on rather than hoping that this development will fix those issues. I don't know how that really would equate. I think we just need to think overall what the master plan is for the town. I don't like that terminology, master plan. I know that relates to the whole water district thing, but even just in general, if you take a few steps back, just think about what is the plan for this town? Is it to become Little Westchester? I mean, everybody jokes about it, but unfortunately with these big developments, we don't have the infrastructure to support this kind of stuff that Westchester does. They have bus systems, they have easy transportation, they have stores you can walk to. Unless you live right in Hopewell, you're not walking to any store. Matter of fact, I don't even walk down to the deli down the street, or I don't even walk to Brady's Power Equipment. I take my life in my hands. And those are the main things. I mean, I know you've heard it all, but honestly, I just think that you just need to take a step back and just take a bigger picture. is all I'm requesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As other people come forward, I would suggest, the lady just now covered a lot of issues, and so if you have some new issues, try to emphasize those and not necessarily go over old ground.
And I agree with you. I won't repeat any of those with regards to the prior speaker and Mr. Devine's letter. My name is Tim Kelly. I reside at 44 Old Route 52, a couple of doors down from the Stormville Post Office. I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Devine's letter and his concerns. My concerns would mimic probably anything else you're going to hear. Traffic, and I would expect, I have a well, and I prefer to stay on a well, and I would expect the water table to drop with the project this size. So we've heard the traffic issues. Route 52 becomes a service road when 84 has problems, and I know that because I take 52 down to the highway. So that would be one of my biggest concerns. I don't think a roundabout solves anything like that. I'm there I reside in this house almost 30 years. I've seen numerous small developments like Pumpkin Glen come along with very little improvement to infrastructure in the immediate area. So again, just the same concerns Mr. Devine's letter has in the previous speaker. I just want to put it on record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other speakers?
Hi, my name is Daniel Canella. I live right on the hill of Stormville. Getting out my driveway, you heard about the traffic is a problem, all right? Like the gentleman just said, when something goes wrong with 84, I have to sit there for 5 minutes just to get out of my driveway. And that happens very rarely, all right? But if you add all these houses, it'd be almost impossible to get out of my driveway. I live on a hill, on a curve. It's dangerous enough, all right? The water table is another issue, all right? That's something, I'm not a scientist, I don't know what the deal is with that. But it's common sense is you add that many houses to the area, not only it takes away from the looks of the area, Stormville is beautiful. It's a beautiful area. I think it would really be a downgrade, big time, to add that many houses and that many people to that space. Right? Traffic is a major issue, and it won't get better. It will just get worse once you add that many people. As people grow, as developments grow, it will be a lot worse. So it will not get better. All right, so please take that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm on Southern Drive, and I'm concerned about where the entrance and exits for Summit
Be sure to sign in if you would,
would
please.
be. I haven't seen a plan. I've seen Montage, but I haven't seen Summit. That's basically the only thing that hasn't been said so far.
So we'll ask Amy to do that when she comes back up to speak to the answer to all the other things. Other questions or comments?
Page 2. Lefty.
My name is Yvonne Caligieri, and I live right across the street from the, both of these developments, which will be dumping right out into me. Mostly my concern, I agree with the school system. That letter was on target. The traffic, I tried to decipher, I don't know what I'm looking at, the numbers for their traffic before and after, different times, different days, this, that, the weekend. It seems like a lot of their numbers showed 0 of impact when there's got to be a lot of cars coming out of there, and it showed, from what I could see, it looked like it wasn't going to have an effect. That's impossible with 300 plus houses. So that's a big concern, and everything everybody said about the schools, the traffic, the location, the 84, ditto for all that, on top of that, plus me. I have one entrance to get in and out of my house, which is directly at the traffic circle, which I assume they are going to move. I also have another entrance, which is a farm byway, which there's accidents, there's this, there's that. That road has been closed off for a fire down the block, and numerous occasions where I've used that byway, which I would like to maintain some kind of out in that location, if possible. I don't know if I should get into the traffic circle, because we're not really addressing that, correct, tonight, or?
Well, it can be included in your comments, certainly. It's something that's really up to the DOT. New York State
Right.
DOT is
They're
in
not here,
charge,
correct?
and they are not, no.
Right, so
And
should
so
I?
probably have very little effect on that.
Okay.
But your comment with regards to your driveway being affected by the traffic circle is certainly something that needs to be considered.
Yeah, where they, by the way, he did take my email address and say, I don't remember his name, but he told me he was going to diligently get in touch with me. I have not gotten anything at all as far as any communication or any change or, okay, so whatever. That didn't sit too well with me. Where they propose to move my driveway is still involved in the traffic circle, where it comes to that little triangle and that little, that, to me, that's in the traffic circle. And if I am trying to go make a left into my driveway, I'm backing up that traffic circle where there's tractor trailers and there's school buses and a gazillion people trying to get by me. I already get beeped at. So that's not a good location. I would want it like probably close to 40, 50 feet further down on the property, out of the traffic circle as much as possible to eliminate any extra congestion and any not getting hit trying to get into my driveway, which is a daily event, trying that to happen. So I would propose to make it better to get in and out of my driveway, not the same, you know? And then there's the light pole. They want to move the electric pole. Right now, it's not, I don't have to drive under that electric pole or the lines. They want to move it where it would still impact being, I don't know what the answer is to that, if it can be buried or something, but I don't think it's a good idea to be driving under that. I don't know how that works. I don't know if other people drive under those lines or what, but I don't. It may be silly, but it's not something I'm used to. It goes from point A to point B, and it's very good. They want to move it from like way, it just would take away from the house, to me. Anyway, I also had another suggestion for that traffic circle. If it could be, two suggestions, if it could be moved further east and south, because right now it comes, I'd have to show you, but all those cars are like going right into my house, and I don't have any headlights coming into my house right now. They go this way, they go that way. And there's noise and there's traffic and all that, but they want to make a bend where it's going right into my living room and right into the bedrooms upstairs. If that's potentially a B&B, that's not good for business, or for me personally. The other so south and east. The other suggestion is there's that little triangle piece of property, and there's a lot of tractor trailers that right now they miss that turn at the other end of 52. Some drivers can do it, some drivers can't. They're not all skilled at their job, and I've seen them stuck on that hump over there. If possible, is there a way to, I don't know what's going on with that triangle piece of land, add a turnoff that's further removed from the traffic circle so that they're out of the traffic circle, because apparently that's going to be the new travel path, as I'm sure the residents at the other end don't want them coming through by the post office. And if this is away from me, in that bend, take them out of the traffic circle, that might alleviate at least some of those trucks going through there. It's just a suggestion. I'm not a traffic engineer by any means, but it just seems like it makes sense. That land seems to be dead. I don't know what they're doing with it. But anyway, we could address that with the DOT, I guess, right?
We'll ask Amy if there's anything she can do to kind of help you out with regards to those, and if nothing else, our traffic expert
right.
professional could maybe answer a couple of those questions for you, but let's start with the developer's professional.
Okay, and I just want to make sure that they're going to move the fence and move everything else that goes along with what's at the entrance right now. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Yes.
My name is Matt Warner. I live on 216. I wanted to first just echo the inadequacy of the earlier signage. I go through the intersection of 216 and 52 every day, and only recently became aware of all this. The current signage is good, so if future hearings can be posted in that manner, that works. I want to echo Dr. Bonk's concerns. My students attend Gay Head, and with something of this size, I would hope that, this is looked at holistically, and that sort of the project is self-supporting in the sense that the burden it's placing on the schools is going to be adequately, accounted for with taxes, and that the school can do what it needs to do. Like I said, I just became aware of all of this. I'm just trying to look through a lot of the materials, but I did see a plan with the lighting at the traffic circle. I agree that density seems a bit much. I mean, I think it obviously makes sense to light it, but it looks like a bit of a runway right now. On the Eder Road project, there was sort of mention of existing drainage issues. I want to sort of log an existing traffic issue. I live at 141, which is just east of a hard bend before 216 goes left and Old 52 continues. That bend is terrible. I moved in my house 8 years ago. I've had remnants of a car in my lot probably four or five times. My mailbox has been taken out once. Other neighbors have said that's happened before I moved there. So particularly if it looked like one of the water connections, there was going to be a lot of work on 216. I don't know if we can take a look at that and maybe making that a little more navigable. It's fine if you go at the correct speed, but generally I hear people accelerating through there, and like I said, they end up in my yard more often than I'd like. And the last thing, I haven't been able to look at all the water stuff, but I've never had any concerns about my well. It's always been great, but I have a sump pit in my basement that has never had less than 3 feet of water probably in it. That's gone dry this summer. So, I'm just a little bit concerned about the general water levels, even before a development pulling a lot of water out of the area. I also just want to know what email do I send if I want to have my well monitored. I don't know if I'm within the area that would allow that, but it sounds like I can email, but it's unclear who.
We had that information available at the last meeting, as I recall.
We sent it to the planning board, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Other questions and comments? If not, we'll ask the applicant to come back up and we could walk through some of the responses. I think some of these items may be easy to respond to and some maybe not so. I don't know.
I just want to make note that Ms. Caligari's comments are more geared towards Montage, not Summit. And this is the Summit public hearing, so.
Okay.
Not that it matters,
So
but
we'll
just
ask
for the record.
Montage to respond.
What's that?
We'll make sure that Montage responds.
Okay. So I think most of those technical or scientific questions and concerns have been addressed in the EIS and the FEIS and the finding statement. And as far as the school situation, the enrollment is decreasing overall, and I understand there may be some redistricting required, but the impact is not going to happen immediately. It's going to be a phased project, so the increase in school children will be gradual. And over the course of K through 12. You want?
Amy, maybe before you go, you could, I know the one comment was about the access on 52 into Summit Woods.
Oh, that's right. Jackie, can you, sorry. Can you unlock this, please? Thanks. It looks fine here. I can just show her on the laptop. And what's that? It's fine here. Let's see. Can't see it up there. Who had the question about? Do you want to just come up and I'll show you this?
No, we haven't really seen anything visual for the summit, so.
Okay, well, so the access is, here's Primrose Lane.
Right.
The access is just north of that.
So before the post office, between post office and Primrose.
And then the other access is,
Can we put that up? Yeah, so everyone can see?
that's gonna take a minute, right? And then Stormville Mountain Road is here, and that's the other access for
So
Summit.
we're looking at putting it at the base of the mountain.
It's,
That's not
So
a
it's-
red flag for
you have
anyone?
you have Stormville Mountain Road here, and
Sure.
it's going further north. So Stormville Mountain Road intersection is on the hill,
Yep.
more or less, and then, so yes, this would be at the base.
That is,
So Amy, maybe you could give a brief description of just the access in terms of, you know, the one driveway being a full access, the other driveway being a restricted access where there's only right turns and in and out. And there's also a proposal to put a left turning lane on Route 52 at the access points. I can't remember the name of the side road, but I think there's even a proposal to put a left turn lane that's going to provide a left turn storage into one of the side roads.
I believe Primrose.
Okay.
Right, so Primrose, which is the northern entrance into Summit. So, I don't know if you caught that. There's going to be a turning lane, a left turn restriction out. Is that?
No, so,
Right.
I mean, I can describe it the way that I understand it.
Yeah.
Right, so there's two access points. The one to the north is a full access, meaning that you're allowed to exit in either direction and enter in either direction. So it's a full access driveway. But they are proposing to put a left turn lane on Route 52. So if you're going to take a left into the Summit Woods main driveway, you're going to have storage for a left turn lane on Route 52. That left turn lane is going to extend some distance. That's going to also, what's the side road?
Primrose.
Primrose. It's going to allow for left turns in the opposite direction onto that side road. And then the driveway to the south is a restricted driveway in where you're going to be able to enter with a right turn off of 52 eastbound, or you're going to be able to exit on a right turn. And those are the only movements that'll be permitted at that driveway.
so up, you can only make a right up,
Yeah.
not a left.
You cannot take a left in or out.
Not right across, it's close, it's further to the west of Stormville Mountain Road. So if you're looking at the map,
I'm hoping that turn lane's gonna be able to stack a couple of cars, because when those trucks come down that hill at full speed, and somebody's waiting to make a turn there, that could get really ugly.
the left turn restrictions on the near Stormville Mountain Road, so there's not going to be, you can't take a left turn into the project across from Stormville.
Right,
Is there going to be some sort of curbing to prevent that? Because just having a sign there isn't going to stop
No,
people from
it's
doing
actually,
it.
it's going to be developed as like a splitter island, so that it's going to push you in those directions. You're not going to be able to physically make the movement of a left turn in or out. Or it'd be very difficult.
And the center lane doesn't go all the way to the
So
post office?
if you continue to have questions, maybe come back up to the,
I think just for clarification.
okay?
I think I can, so the turning lane, the left turning lane going across from Primrose going into the project will have a stackable lane that will provide storage for cars preparing to turn left into the subdivision.
One thing to be aware of, I mean, this is still under review by the New York State DOT. That is something that they have commented on in terms of trying to understand what the storage length of those left turn storage bays are going to be, and they're going to, they're asking for some evaluation of that to ensure that the length of those lanes are adequate for the anticipated traffic.
Okay, because I could just also foresee someone avoiding the traffic circle and using Old Route 52 now, which would increase that section.
Traffic circles actually work really well. I don't know if you've been by the airport.
Sure, but I'm saying at that point, right by the post office,
It'll keep traffic flowing more consistently than,
To drive up on the curb.
it'll impact back up, it'll back up the impact.
There's going to be a ton more than
Traffic,
52 here. Works at the package pavement.
I understand.
So just one other thing I just wanted to say, just the engineer in me compels you to say that it's actually called a modern roundabout, not a traffic circle. A traffic circle is an old term that denotes a larger circle, faster speeds. These modern roundabouts are smaller in diameter. They have aprons to accommodate larger vehicles, but they're smaller in diameter, meant to reduce speeds and control speed through them so that they can't go fast. But
So just with regards to your comment about the circle up at the airport.
Sir?
Example of an improvement to the traffic? This does not.
We can't, sir,
Could you come to the microphone, please? Thank you.
So, again, local resident in the area, that's a good example of traffic alleviation near that airport. This is going to be traffic that is just going to compound the problems in that area, and then a circle, to me, is not really the answer for any of this. It's unnecessary, in my opinion. I just want to say that.
Okay. So there were some other issues that maybe you'd care to speak to a little bit?
Well, I think the appropriate next step here, with the comments that have been raised, is to allow the technical staff. There were a lot of questions about traffic. There were certainly questions about stormwater runoff, impact to groundwater levels, impact to wells. These are all in the nature of technical questions. And again, all these issues were addressed in the EIS and that led to the finding statement. But I think the next appropriate step for this is let's have that technical meeting between Amy, between the applicant's engineers with staff. The applicant can get the necessary information from the town so that all the technical issues can be reviewed. We have that completed, and at that point, complete the public hearing.
And I think the one other thing that we'd ask you to take a look at are the questions about the schools.
Correct.
I know you do have a study, but perhaps expanding that a little bit that's more responsive to the letter that we got would be a good idea.
I understand that's a new letter issued by that relevant school district. We'll have to look at that.
Great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll accept a motion to adjourn this public hearing to a date uncertain at this point.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Montage, I'm sure a lot of the comments are similar, but we will open the public hearing for that. I'll accept a motion to open that public hearing, reopen.
So moved.
second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Richard O'Rourke, attorney for the applicant with the law firm of Keenan Bean. Obviously, this is now our third session of the public comment and public hearing, and obviously it was preceded by a full environmental review through environmental impact statements and a positive finding statement that was ultimately adopted. What I thought I might do is just highlight a couple of the points that I can respond to briefly, I think. With me tonight is Tom Troy, who's the president of Charbel, along with the Senior Vice President for Development, Mark Canuli. If I may, a couple observations. Number one, as far as the traffic circle is concerned, forgive me.
Modern roundabout.
The modern
Roundabout.
sorry. That's not our design, that's DOT. And that's something that, quite frankly, there's a lot that's been said about the modern roundabout, but that's something that, quite frankly, we cannot control that. We certainly want to be accommodating, but that's something that we cannot address. The school district is a concern. The school district is a concern, a legitimate concern, and I understand that, respect it. A couple observations, and I think I may have mentioned this somewhere along the line in one of the sessions of the public hearing. Pattern for Progress did a very, very detailed study in terms of demographics and impacts on school districts, including in Dutchess County, Westchester, Putnam. And one of the irrefutable facts based upon what their experts are saying is that there is going to continue to be a dramatic reduction in the number of school enrollment, and there's going to be a corresponding dramatic increase in terms of the age of the population in Dutchess County. So, as has been said, this is a phased project over time. It's not going to be built out tomorrow. It's going to be over a very long period of time. And so the impact that will be occurring at the same time has to be put into the perspective of what the experts are saying is going to happen to Dutchess County, and in particular this area. So I just think that that is something we will address. And again, if necessary, I will make copies of that very detailed study that was prepared. I think it'll be very helpful and illuminating on a lot of fronts. Comments were made regarding wildlife, tree removal, water issues. Those are issues that were, in fact, addressed through the environmental review process. And a comment was made, well, some of the information is stale. I respectfully will remind you that, and I'm sure, Mr. Cummings and Cunningham and Mr. Wood will confirm this. The New York State Court of Appeals has reached this issue, and it's in a case, Riverkeeper versus the town of Southeast. It went to the highest court, Court of Appeals. Chief Judge Kaye, in that decision, specifically addressed the issue of aging data in environmental impact statements and in environmental review, and found that it's a necessary consequence of the elongated period of time that all these applications go through. So it's not as though they're stale necessarily, it's just it's an understanding that the process takes so long that some people believe it's stale. It's not necessarily stale.
Yeah, I understand that, but if you're talking about 2005 data, and, there's been a lot of people that have moved to this county in the last 3 or 4 years trying to get out of the city with COVID, so this area is really taken off. I mean, when I moved to this town, there was less than 5,000 people here. We're approaching 30 now. It's a whole different place.
Well, I think the traffic data over time was updated, and I'm trying to recall, I don't recall the exact date of your finding statement.
The school study, somebody said, was from 2005.
What I'm referring to is a study that was done within the last 5 years, okay? So, nevertheless, I'll give you the report. You take a look at it at its face value, and I'm not disagreeing with you in terms of what must have been said, but I am respectfully will draw your attention to the more empirical studies that have been done recently. And I think that's very, very important. With that, I think that the other comment was related to the water table, water usage, the information that is available. Mr. Canuli is going to discuss that. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of the points that I thought were mentioned tonight and I thought were relevant. I also just want to draw your attention to the response that came from Days to Costa dated September 6th to the most recent CPL comment letter, which was dated June 22nd, 2022. And I note that all of the comments are technical in nature, engineering in nature, and I believe the questions have been responded to. And so what we're trying to do is isolate, based upon the information we have, what remains outstanding, and obviously address those to your satisfaction. And with that, we would also respectfully request that the public hearing be closed. I think a lot of the comments are repetitious. This is the third session, and I know many of the speakers have spoken maybe once or twice before, and I think that's something that should be taken into account as well. What I'd like to do is turn it over to Mr. Cannoli for a moment and continue to respond to the questions that have been raised.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Mark Cannoli, Senior Vice President of Development for Charbel Dutchess Incorporated. As was mentioned by Mr. O'Rourke, we've been here a few nights in the past. This would be our third public hearing on the preliminary and final subdivision for Montage at East Fishkill. What I'd like to do is address some of what was said under Summit Woods and carries over to our project as well. But first, I'd like to just remind the board that I think it's fair for both developments. The Summit Woods and Montage projects do relate to one another in terms of some of the shared infrastructure, some of the circulation connections, some of the things that we share as neighbors, and we work together to come up with solutions on. However, both projects, and I don't think our neighbor Summit Woods would disagree, are designed and have to be designed to be developed independently, should one go before the other. So that means that there are phasing plans that are a little more detailed than the preliminary phasing plan that we've submitted with this application. And we're working on that detailed phasing plan, which will show not only the roads that need to go in initially, but the stormwater facilities that need to go in initially, the emergency connections that connect our project to Summit Woods and vice versa, what they need to connect to on our site where there are wells, and where our wells tie into the town water system and our force mains, go off-site and tie into regional pumping stations and eventually connect to Four Corners. So I just want the record to be clear. These are two projects that are adjacent to one another. However, they are going to be and need to be designed so that they can develop independently of one another. But there are also shared relationships that we've acknowledged through developers agreements. We've established how we would work together, how they can get infrastructure through our site, how we can get emergency access through theirs should one go before the other. A few things were said about my commitment to comments made by Ms. Caligari. I just want to make it clear, and I do understand your frustration. I share a little bit of that. We're working with the DOT. And if you recall the last meeting, what you see here is our 122-lot subdivision plan. At the top left corner, it's hard to see, but there is a modern roundabout being looked at and discussed with the DOT. Since we submitted our concept to the DOT, there were comments from town to add crosswalks, sidewalks, some lighting. Last meeting, someone brought up potentially some warning lighting, that could be triggered. But I do owe Ms. Caligari a plan. I just have to wait to see what plan we're going with. There is a plan here that shows the four legs being tied together in a roundabout. There would be some impacts to the existing driveways on the north west corner, which we would work with the property owner, commit to as a condition of approval, moving certain things like the fence, tying the existing driveway into a location that's agreeable to the property owner. But again, some of those things we have no control over, but we can obviously work together with the DOT to make sure those concerns are addressed. So that's still in the works. That would, in other projects that I've worked on where we have an improvement with the DOT, we've gotten to the point where we've gotten approval of a project conditioned upon getting our final design approved at the DOT. In some cases, that takes another, believe it or not, 5 to 10 years to get through issues that could occur with. I don't anticipate this happening here. I think we control all of the land we need for this improvement. There are no easements that we need to obtain, no substantial grading problems. There are things like we need to add our drainage from the traffic modern roundabout to our SWIP for this project. Some of these technical items, again, all things that we're working on currently with the DOT. Everything that we submitted to the DOT thus far has been posted on our website. Mr. Fitzgerald we've been working with you on our submissions. We've gotten his letters, and we've accommodated as much as we can in that submission. So that's an ongoing process, but again, that may take a little longer than the public hearing process and even an eventual approval. It may take another year to get through everything. And we would anticipate that that could be a condition of approval. But we'll take the comments into consideration with Ms. Caligari's comments made earlier when she spoke about Summit Woods. There may be a few things we can share in advance through an email, but as I mentioned at the last meeting, everything I just said was posted on the website, and I don't expect you to go digging for it. I'll make it a lot easier for you, and maybe I can highlight the driveway you talked about. It's a real concern of the DOT that it's an unsafe condition. So, and then we can maybe start a dialogue through email, and I'll copy the town engineer on every correspondence. So that's my second promise. That one I made on the record. So this way I can't forget. So, but I do have to wait to see what the DOT says about our current design. Regarding all the environmental studies that were done and whether they're outdated or not. We've done extensive testing, bog turtle testing. The analysis has gone on and on over time. Another comment was made regarding our water system. We used, at the time it was Leggett and Brashears, Mr. Cusack, who I understand is the town water consultant. Okay. I've spoken to him recently regarding our testing that was done. It was done in 2005, carried through 2006. The wells that we developed are still on site. They're high-producing wells. The numbers of gallons per minute, somewhere between 150 to 250 gallons per minute, were what they were producing then. We're being told that that type of production doesn't change with the depth of the well. Regarding of how many people are moving into town, it has to do with the impact on that water system. So we will update whatever we need to update. I don't know that there is an additional pumping test required. We've committed to updating any quality issues that we need to address under the new standards. We believe that there is no WEDI analysis issue with what we have here. Talk to Mr. Cusack about that as well. The question I have to talk offline with Mr. Bryan and Mr. Cronk is whether we should engage Mr. Cusack to continue working with us on our project or maybe work with Colliers because there could be some conflicts of interest. I'll deal with that separately from tonight, but wanted to mention that I was told again today and reminded that these wells, at the time they were tested, had no impact to the adjacent wetland, and during the 72-hour testing did not impact adjacent wells. So there are requirements that I guess are in place for longer-term testing of wells when it's just, and I'm not
redundancy and additional.
Yeah, so we'll have to commit to that, and again, that would be a condition of an approval that we would have to address. Those were the two bigger ones. And I'm sure I missed maybe a few others, but, yeah, sure. Let's get back to this here.
Subject to what you would know, and I don't know the answer to this, what is the daily requirement with respect to these subdivisions in terms of water? And compare that to the yield of these wells.
What's our capacity for 122 lots? Gallons per day, yeah, I don't know. I know that these are designed to not only produce potable water, but also provide fire flow throughout, and I heard the concern earlier. That's the capacity of the wells we have here. We have 2 high-producing wells, and in fact, we're also taking that same water system and redundantly tying that back into the town system. Again, speaking with Mr. Cusack, he believed there would be no issue with tying that together with water capacity, as long as we meet quality, no water quality issues. In fact, we could be potentially helping, the system up at Four Corners with what we have down here in this neck of the woods. The issue with the schools, we addressed in the environmental impact statement by talking about, at that point in time, we were using the CRUP, the Center Urban Policy Research at Rutgers. There were new numbers provided of school-age children per household. We talked to the school district back then. This new letter I didn't know about until tonight, so there's no way for me to address it other than what we'd like to do is get a copy of the letter and, offline or, through the consultants in town, maybe set up a side meeting or a Zoom meeting, kind of understand what the concerns are, and then, talk about our ways that we believe we've either addressed it with the way we phase our development, how we're going to come online, and it sounds like it may be more of a school district issue, but I can't really address a letter that was just brought to our attention tonight, and it sounds like it was written on the 9th of September, so I was recovering from surgery. Regarding our submission, and the reason we've requested that at least the public hearing portion be closed, is because this is not only the third evening we've been here, but we've been addressing the comment letters and the technical items and the public comments that we've heard each night. And I don't believe that we haven't heard anything new that we haven't already addressed. And the remaining comments that we have to address relate to technical items on our plan, details, the technical details for our force main system that we're working with town on. We have a preliminary layout that's been reviewed. We're now working with the health department and the state on making sure we understand that what we've designed is permissible, we believe it is. But then there are some town decisions that we got to defer to the town on and take that design to the next step. Again, that's an approval process that will probably take longer than what we would need with the board, and it could be a condition of an eventual approval. So there's not much more to say on that other than if the board needs a better update, we could provide either, a detailed narrative on where that stands currently in terms of its design, its review process with the state, and maybe a timeline on what we anticipate. Well, we thought from when we started that would be about a 18-month process, and we're probably about 6 months into that. So that could be another year and some months to the point where we're designed and maybe a little longer to be permitted. So that's our water and sewer system. We addressed a lot of the other comments. There's probably going to be more tonight. I'll wait to see what we need to address again. I don't think there's anything more.
Just one last point, if I may. The signage.
Oh, that is a good point.
The signage that was, I know.
Can I address it? Because I was involved heavily in making sure we addressed everyone's concern. there are the small signs that you get at Town Hall that say, Town of East Fishkill, public hearing, the date, and the name of the applicant, and the name of the project. We agreed at the last meeting that when I left the very next day, we would call our company, Fast Signs, and have both of those signs that were illegible be replaced with just that. And that's all, and I've sent the pictures of the signage. They were done, I think, the following Wednesday. So I don't know if you've been by the sign recently. I don't know the gentleman who mentioned that. But if you can't see it, you must be looking at the wrong sign.
Dates weren't up on it, though, when it first went up. Dates weren't
Okay,
up on it for a very long time.
So I don't know when you drove by. I have pictures to prove it.
Multiple times a day.
Well, when was the last time you drove by?
Well, I'd say dates were up in the last 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah.
But they're rough.
Yeah, you're right. Then I would agree with you. I would agree with you. There was a time where we had the hearing, and then we had to wipe the date out because we postponed the hearing, and that may be what you're talking about. But now if you drive by, I agree with you, and when we adjourn to another hearing, we'll put a sticker over that has the new date, but there's no way you can't see it at this point. So the signage is up, and we've been taking pictures, and we post the pictures of the new sign in our box on the web too, just so we have a record of everything we've been doing.
Just on the record, I'd say the signs are much better than they were. I know it was probably a year ago when I said you had these signs that had like
I think we were directed
couldn't see from the
by a
road.
few-
I mean, it made no sense.
to do certain things, and I think we just never did the right thing until now. So I don't think there's any problem with it.
There also, you did put the smaller signs, but they were removed.
Yeah, I mean, I think they get mowed over by the DOT when they're mowing the lawn or the wind or whatever, you know. But we physically, our company president and I stuck them in the ground, and by the time we got to the meeting, they were gone. So I don't know. It happens. So I guess it's time to hear from the public.
Okay.
Step down.
Thank you. And again, if you have any comments, you can come forward now. If it's repetitive for the issues that we've already talked about, because a lot of them, I'm confident, are very similar to what we talked about with Summit, please know that we've got those comments already. But if you have something new, sir, please come up and sign in.
One quick question. My name is Robert Flynn. I live on Kim Lane. Who took the pen?
Oops.
Thank you. I just have one quick question. These big projects, can any of this stuff come to fruition without a town vote and approval? Is it between you and them, or does it always have to be a town vote before this goes through?
You mean a vote
By town vote, do you mean planning board
Like
vote?
some kind of town vote where,
A resident vote?
yeah,
Like a referendum?
like no.
No, we are the authority that will evaluate all of the environmental issues associated with the project and determine if it's something we can approve.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope you take a good consideration on it, because I think it's a horrible idea. I moved here over 20 years ago from Westchester. You don't want this to turn into that. And that's the way it's going.
Any other questions or comments? So I think, Mr. Kelly, I think you do now have a communication line that you'll have
Hope so.
with them?
Yeah, well, I didn't understand what the problem was. I don't know what I missed, but I heard a couple of references about lighting. I didn't know there was any kind of lighting plan, and that would if it looks like Manhattan, it's directly going to affect.
So I think that's one of the comments that came up, and we'll ask them to respond to that as well.
Because I don't know anything about
I
it.
think it might be in relation to the roundabout.
Yeah.
Where the DOT has requirements for having a certain lighting level at the roundabout, because, obviously it's a change condition that needs to be illuminated if someone's driving down the road.
I don't remember, and I could be wrong, any other traffic circles, roundabouts that are lit up like.
It's just like roadway lighting.
Okay.
So, if you went to the roundabouts on Route 55 in LaGrange, you will see there's lighting around the roundabouts.
Okay, I guess
there's street lighting there too. That's a little bit different scenario.
Okay.
This lighting would be contained to, the area of the roundabout.
Not those big.
Well, it would be street lighting, yes.
Yeah.
So-
Is there a picture or something that people are referring to?
The airport,
Did they? Oh, okay, all right. And I agree with him, I'm from, whoever said that, I'm from Long Island, so I moved up here to get away from all that, not invite it.
Got it. Any other questions or comments? So I understand your wish to have us close the public hearing. As I mentioned to the gentleman from Summit Woods, unfortunately, we announced at the beginning of the meeting that we would extend this and adjourn it to a date uncertain, and that anybody who was here could either stay or could come back for that final, what we would expect would be a final public hearing. So, and a few people did get up and leave, and so we expect them back. So in all fairness, we unfortunately do need to adjourn it, keep it open, ask for you to respond to all the technical issues. I think we've got a few other non-technical kinds of issues, some of the studies you've already done, maybe some things that need to be evaluated, and just come back for another session.
If I may, I just want to make sure that we understand the remaining open issues. I think we have a sense of, obviously, the new letter from the school district. We thought we had responded to the comments we received from the town consultant. Obviously, the not the roundabout. It is the roundabout. Okay, I got it right this time. You know, that's a design factor that obviously we have some input, but ultimately that's not our decision. And we have the property there. We're willing to convey whatever is necessary to make that come to fruition. That's something that obviously that modern, oh, I'm sorry. Fortunately, it's not an arraignment system. I'm no longer a judge, so I don't have to worry about that. But anyway, we just
One thing I'd like to just point out about that, I know I was unable to attend the last meeting, and I don't know what the exact discussion was, but even if you could offer the public some background as to meeting with the DOT, and even, I don't know if this was the first proposal that went to the DOT, or whether, you know, obviously there's safety and operational and capacity issues at 216 and 52 that exist today, right, even without this development. So, you know, the DOT is looking to correct those with this project, and I don't know if there was any discussion of a different scenario of being a traffic signal or a modern roundabout, but that, you know, that background might be helpful so everyone understands. It's not just, you know, it's a process of evaluation that the DOT is undertaking. It's not just, you know, that you know, they determine that they think this would be an appropriate fix, you know, for this already existing situation that's not good.
Mr. Cannulli can address that, but obviously our obligation is not necessarily to remedy existing conditions as a matter of law. It is to remedy whatever impacts our application has. But nevertheless, the project that's being undertaken is to also take into account existing conditions, and we're part of that now.
Yeah, just to clear the record, and I think, Mr. Fitzgerald, you may recall, maybe not, but back in May of 2021, we started a concept application process, or we continued our concept application process. We submitted a signalized intersection plan and a roundabout, modern roundabout plan to the DOT, because they requested an alternative. And that's, again, that's posted in that box with all the correspondence. They came back to us and said, we want to pursue the roundabout. We were, in any direction we were told to go, you know, we have to go. So we were asked by the DOT to pursue this whole thing. We didn't decide that we wanted one over the other. It was their decision. And apparently that's the direction they've been heading in these types of improvements. So we're working with them, and, you know, we're waiting for their last round of comments, and then I'll have a better understanding of what the lighting details look like, where the sidewalk, I believe they accepted our sidewalk option and crosswalk because we want to tie our development into the Dutchess rail system. That's, you know, further up the road. So it looks like everything's moving along, but that's how we got to where we are today.
All right, thank you. I just thought that context would be good for the public.
Agreed.
So going off of that, though,
I think that context for other issues, environmental issues, water issues, these conversations have been disjointed for a very long time. We've been adding to bits and pieces of information for a long time now. To have a comprehensive overview of how we got to where we are today in terms of impacts, I think at the next public hearing would be really helpful. And I think that's part of the reason why we keep getting the same questions over and over again, because we're getting bits and pieces of information as these meetings continue. So I think this goes for both Montage and for Summit Woods to comprehensively come together and kind of show the impacts and how we've gotten to where we are today, all of the findings that we've come to maybe give everybody kind of a big picture overview of how we are here today. And that way, maybe we can answer all of the questions that have come up instead of kind of adding to bits and pieces of information meeting to meeting.
Let me try. That's not a bad idea, but let me make sure that I'm clear. In October of last year, and I believe you're on the board at that point, or maybe not, we reopened our public, we came in September, reintroduced ourselves. We actually had a Zoom meeting first. Then we came in person, and we said, here we are again, you miss us, here we are, right? We started the process, we had a very detailed presentation. I can't keep doing that to this board and to these professionals. You'll run me out of this room. We went through a very, I guess, summary type presentation that talked about when this project started and how we got here. And this was before some of the members' time. We went through, there was other zoning in place and, went through a bunch of things with the town board at the time, and here we are, 15 some years later. What I don't want to do is go back to the very beginning and run through everything all over again and waste everyone's time. But I do understand what you're saying. The bigger issue. I'm
not asking you to do that.
No, you don't want me to do it.
Nobody wants that.
You'll fall asleep.
You don't need to
And
start
we can
with
go
the
back
dinosaurs.
we can go back to videos to see that, but I'm
Right,
talking about the impacts, like the direct impacts that people just keep bringing up.
But we have to be able to rely on our secret process and the finding statement that talks about how we mitigate those issues, and then move on to the development and the design of the subdivision and the technical issues. Now, if some of those issues still carry over, like, let's talk about the water. We have a very detailed report that was done. We can give a better summary of that between now and then. Either we'll submit something in advance and maybe run through it the night of our next hearing. But it'll cover that, our discussion with potentially Dr. From the school board,
Yes.
maybe a meeting with them or a Zoom meeting, and a narrative of what we came up with. It might not be anything more than we just confirmed our school numbers and they agree with what we're going to produce over time. Traffic is another one, I think. And I think what I've heard between those three big ones, all the other environmental reports, anything that needs to be updated would be with anything new with permitting, like a water quality test or something like that. Again, we've been updating you, but we'll put a more comprehensive narrative together, submit that in advance, and then we'll run through it at our next hearing.
High level, though, not all of the technical
that's what I'm
details
saying.
that just
Yeah.
kind of lose people that aren't the professionals. They're not meant to understand that kind of stuff, but just how it impacts them, because again, these are the same questions over and over again, and it might just be helpful to hear it high level, layman's terms, at one time, before we close the public hearing, hopefully for the last time.
I'd agree. Yes, sounds perfect. Excellent summary, thank you. Okay. If there are no other questions or comments, there is? Okay.
Just quickly with regards to the schools and those studies, I think anything that was done pre-COVID is essentially irrelevant. There's just anecdotally, I know a lot of people are moving to this area because of that, because they can now, I work in the city and commute in when I need to. I know a lot more people are making the decision to work outside the city. There's countless articles about how that's happening all over the country. So I just don't think that data is relevant. And I also think there's a little bit of a dissonance between, don't worry, there's going to be a population drain, but also we're doing two major developments right next to each other. I mean, who's moving into those developments?
Right. And I'm sure the superintendent of schools will have the data that's necessary that would be post-COVID kind of data. And your study, I think, really relates more to the number of school-age children that will be coming from the development. But that all needs to be married now and consolidated so they can determine if the schools can handle that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I'd like to add something. So, last meeting I had asked about the district, and you had said the district had capacity. We have an enormous school district that straddles over multiple towns. We have 2, I think, elementary schools in East Fishkill.
Yes.
What ends up happening is we're saturating one school that's already overburdened. And what ends up happening is somebody in Fishkill Plains territory gets their kids removed from that school and put into a totally different town. So when you read Dr. Bonk's letter, you'll understand it's not necessarily the district, it's the elementary school that's this development's going to feed into with the 0.87 kids per household that you had described to us last time. That really needs to be looked at because I don't see anybody here from the Fishkill Plains side. It's going to impact them if there has to be a redistricting of the elementary school lines. That's where really some of the issues are. We've gone through that a couple of years ago, and it was total chaos.
Yes, we did.
And it was costly to the district. The town people paid it in our school taxes. These are all things that I highly recommend talking to Dr. Bonk, because he clearly identified the issue with the elementary school, not the district. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? So with that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn the public hearing to a date uncertain to give everyone a chance to talk.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there any other business to be brought before the board? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who came. Thank you to the public and the applicants. Appreciate it.